Okay, I am pushing record. I am sharing my screen. And this is Heather Choate Davis, and this is episode 5 of What Are You Talking About? And today I'm going to be talking with my good friend Bob Hiller. Now, there
we go.
Hey, Bob, would you introduce yourself, let people know who you are and what you're all about, and then we'll dive into a question.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Heather. My name is Pastor Bob Hiller. I'm the pastor of Community Lutheran Church in Escondido in San Marcos, California. I work on a little website called The Craft of Preaching to help pastors kind of grow in their craft of preparing sermons, and do some other work with 1517 over there. That's kind of what I do.
And I remember you used to do a lot of stuff talking about sports, didn't you?
Yeah, and actually I may be starting that up again. I used to write for a blog over there called The Jagged Word, and I would try and find some intersection between sports and theology, which was always a challenging thing, but kind of a fun thing.
Oh, I love that. I think it's great. Hey, okay, what are we going to talk about today? What do you want to ask me?
All right, so I want to talk to you about your last song on the album, Heaven Isn't Far Away. And the last line of the last song, I like the end of things, so this was what stood out to me. And I want you to dig in a little bit for me with the line, "We want to share the love that holds us all and lights with hope our stories." That line, "lights with hope our stories," is very interesting to me. And I'd like to know kind of where it came from and what you were thinking about with that.
Well, you know, this song is the culmination of everything. Well, no, not the culmination, because it's actually the final. It wraps everything up. I guess the
Right.
amen. And I first heard this line, I was walking in the hallway at UCLA Medical Center right after my daughter had her final brain surgery in January of this year, before any of this was even recorded.
Good gracious.
And I thought to myself, I was thinking, gosh, is there something from my teachings or writings I've done before that maybe should be put to music? And then I could just hear the line about like, from now straight through to forever. And I wrote about that in that little book, Happier Those. And so that suddenly came with a little melody, and then it started to build, and it was just very short. And I loved the idea of it being in a pub because it was so joyful.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It was like a liturgy, the whole album, because you had the entrance of the Spirit into our suffering, and then we had the celebration where we join in with the family of God and the great cloud of witnesses. But those last lines that you're talking about, like to share the love that holds us all. When we come together, we are bound together by a love that has to be bigger than all of us. It can't just be like my idea of love and your idea of love, and I like to love these people, or I'm willing to tolerate those people. You know, that's kind of what we mean a lot of times now when we say love. We mean like tolerate, you know, or not harass, or, you know, everything is very, as we know, segmented. But this is, if something is going to hold the whole human family together, it's got to be bigger than all of us. So to share the love, and I believe, and you believe in that one love being the love of Christ that is at the center of the universe, right? So share the love that holds us all and lights with hope our stories. You know, it's been a very hard, dark year, so we don't have to look too far to understand why we would be longing for hope. And hope is interesting because we have hope for little problems, day-to-day things, right? Gosh, I hope I do well on that test, or I hope I do okay on that interview, or whatever it is. And then a larger longing for hope. And hope is really rooted in the knowledge that things aren't as they should be.
Right.
They aren't quite right. They aren't good. They aren't full of light. But I believe that they will be better. And I don't believe it in a false sense. I believe it in a real sense. You know, Martin Luther King said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice," right? We hear that line every year for his anniversary of his death, and people love that line. And what I love about that is to even understand that there is such a thing as an arc of a moral universe, right? And it bends towards justice. It bends from the darkness to the light. And it does it in little bits throughout our daily stories, our weekly stories, and it does it in the big story. And I believe that the pivot point of that, where it starts to bend, is the cross, right? And that is where that hope comes from. And it's not a false hope, because we already have the paradigm set of death that leads to life, of life where there is no life, right? So we know from that that hope is a real thing, that hope is rooted in that love that lifts us up. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? And so when
Makes
we come
total
together,
sense.
it's a joyful thing.
Yes. Yes. Well, yeah, I think it's, not to get too bleak, but I think it's C.S. Lewis somewhere says, like, the definition of hell is not torture, but it's hopelessness, right? Like, that there's nothing to look forward to, that everything is aimless. But in fact, hope gives us something to hold on to and long for. In the Christian hope, the promise of the resurrection of the dead and the life of the world to come. It's the hope and I love the way you just said it, the hope that actually fills us with joy. Like, it gives us something to cling to and look forward to and anticipate with a joyful longing. Yeah, that's great.
Well, it is joyful. And also, it's because we can realize that the burden isn't on us. Yes, it's true.
Right.
Life in this world will never be as good as we wish it were, right?
Right.
But the hope is not a false hope. It's not like saying, oh, everything's going to be fine. People
Right.
say that a lot, like, oh, it's all going to be fine. I don't know what that would be based on, because, if you look at the
Yeah, right.
the evidence is not so good that it'll be fine, right?
Right.
You have that real hope and that deeper hope. And I don't know, did you know Eric Trickey?
I knew of Eric, not
Okay.
very well. Yeah.
Eric Trickey was a fellow pastor. He passed in May. He was a very dear friend of mine, and he got sober in the pulpit. And he celebrated 10 years sober in the pulpit about 2 weeks before he died. And he opened a lot of doors for me. And this song is actually dedicated to him, which is a delicious irony that we both love, that since he was an alcoholic who got sober, that we would have this final song in a pub. Because, then even the alcoholics can sing with joy in heaven, because it's now beyond the burdens of our bodies, right? Yeah. Yep. And he loved that. And I don't know if you know this, and now kind of getting a little off topic, but not really. He pre-recorded his own sermon for his—
I didn't know that. Yeah.
And it was called Eric Trickey is Now in Heaven, because he could declare it before he left with such confidence. And that is the joy that we talk about in this song, Heaven Isn't Far Away.
Beautiful. I love it.
Good. I think that's a good place for us to end. Hey, Bob, it was really good to see you. Have a wonderful Advent and Christmas, and I hope to see you in person soon.
Yeah, thanks, Heather.